Good morning. Raining in the Napa Valley. I'm here until I go to Italy. I think I shared that with you. I took down the video on angels and angelic guides and reincarnation and a few other topics because I realized it was pretty long and each one of the people deserved a video. I also realized I had, besides my sister Lisa passing on and returning to the planet, I had a video on Alice already. And she's in my videos from a while back, which I didn't know because hadn't been using this platform much. Anyway, I'd love to share about my absolutely angelic, beautiful sister Lisa, who only signed up for 24 years. And I'll tell you a little about that and why I know she only signed up for 24 years on the planet. So anyway, I'll go back to the beginning of this beautifully angelic being that even as a child, there was, I came from a family of 7 children, and so there was 9 of us, but Lisa was about 5th in line, and no, 6th in line. Anyway, she just a beautiful, beautiful little being. And it was the first time I saw my dad light up, like really being this loving dad that I think I had hoped at least that he would have been to me. And he really paid attention to her and he'd pick her up and throw her in the air. But she was just that kind of being. She didn't have expectations of others. And I think that's probably why I think we all have so many expectations of how someone's supposed to show up in our life, and then we get crushed when they don't. And it's almost like energetically, perhaps they can't show up in another way because that's part of our life lesson about the expectations we put on another instead of just how we show up in every moment for ourselves and for others. So as kids, I remember going places and we'd be on a holiday on our way home and we always wanted to stop somewhere like A&W root beer or something like that, but it was not the kind of food my parents normally allowed us to have. And we'd ask my dad and he'd say no, but we'd whisper to Lisa, and in her innocence, we'd ask her to ask her dad. And of course, she was totally naive to what we were doing and just would say, Daddy, she'd say, can we stop at A&W root beer? And suddenly the car would turn around and we would end up at A&W root beer. So there was no jealousy for me because I saw this as a wonderful opportunity to get what we wanted. Anyway, so Lisa was just one of those sisters that she was just so easy. And you couldn't even stay mad at her. I remember one time when she was in first year of high school and she borrowed this white cashmere sweater of mine that was, it took me a long time to save for. And she asked me if, she didn't even ask me actually. She wore it to a party and it came back with a cigarette burn in it. I was so upset. I mean, it wasn't from her, but somebody else ran into her or whatever it was. And she would just say, I was like so mad and I just wanted her to pay for it. And she'd say something like, oh, sissy, she said, I'm so sorry. And I go, oh, crud. I mean, I just couldn't never stay mad at this being because she was just so sweet and just had such a beautiful disposition. Anyway, when she was going to school in Arizona as an architect, and I believe she was in her 3rd year, I think, and going into her 4th year anyway, she packed her bags and went off to Nantucket and for the summer because she would waitress and or bartend or whatever and be able to travel. She loved to travel. Both of her and I just loved traveling. So that's what she did in the summer. She went to Southampton, ended up in Southampton and had this wonderful experience. And then I got a call from my dad that Lisa had passed on, that she had gotten in a horrible motorcycle accident. And I remember just being numb, like when I heard that. It's like I couldn't compute it. Now, I hadn't lost anybody. My grandmother on both sides was still alive. My grandfather, I only had lost one grandfather, but it was way before I was born, so I didn't even know him. Anyway, my former husband took me to walk on the beach in Hawaii. That's where we lived. And I just remember just looking down at the sand and just not able to even comprehend what I was told. And the feelings were just so overwhelming. So all of a sudden, my former husband, kind of went, "Oh my gosh!" And I looked up, and the sky looked like it had been, like an artist had just taken huge brushes and just swished them around the sky with beautiful colors and lots of beautiful colors. And so all these photographers were running to the beach, which, in Hawaii, you see people running to taking pictures. No, actually, you don't see them running. You see them taking pictures. But this time it was like just people coming out of nowhere. And I looked up when I was looking at the sky, I was just absolutely amazed, because I had seen a lot of sunsets in Hawaii, but I never saw anything like that. And I heard a voice that said, "Sissy, I'm painting the skies with Monet," and this laughter. And I literally just at that time kind of dismissed it, because I thought I was kind of, just hearing things and making them up. But there was this sense of peace that came over me, this bit of peace that made it a little bit better, but it was like so joyful. And so then we ended up going to the funeral. But before that, we were in the mortuary, and there was her casket, and it was open, and my family were the only ones that were there, and everybody was lined up. So there was 9 people in our family, and I was standing, here, and I think there was either 1 or 2 other siblings on one side, the right side, and then my mother was on my left, and then, the rest on the other side. So it was like feeling the feelings, and that's what I've always done. Even as a small child, I could feel other people's feelings, and the grief was really staggering to me, and the pain and suffering. And I realized now I was taking on other people's stuff, because even though there was an inner knowing that Jesus had come to me when I was a child more than once, I had amazing experiences, which I'll share later. But I understood angelic beings and coming to this planet, but still there was this just heavy, heavy energy. And all of a sudden I heard a voice in my head that said, Sissy, fix my hair and my makeup. And this like laughter, And I thought, oh my gosh, I am completely losing it. And there was kind of a light veil over the open casket, because she had been in the back of a motorcycle and I guess hit head on with a car coming the other way and hit the windshield. And the woman who showed up at the scene said she was immediately, she left. She was gone. She had, there was no life in her at all. And she just ran from a curb over to my sister Lisa. So she left the planet instantly. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of looking side by side, not lifting my head, thinking, what do I do? I can't. I feel the remorse. I feel the pain. I mean, I can't just go say I'm going to take her casket and fix her hair and her makeup. They already thought I was nuts, or at least I believe so. As a child, I hid most of what happened to me because of that. And the only thing we ever got on video was the little butterfly King, I named King, who, after I healed his wings, would come back and land on my finger all the time in the yard for, a day after day after day. It took me about a week and a half or so to do whatever instinctively I knew to heal this little guy. And he would come and land on my finger, and I would just take him and put him on my shoulder, and he'd walk around the garden with me. It was really beautiful. And then after a while, he never came anymore, but it was just part of the magical experiences I had with animals and little creatures, and then learned, because I did get teased, or kind of the shaming, but I didn't understand at the time, even when my dad made a comment in the forest. It was more from a realistic side, like, we can't bring that home, it's going to die anyway if you take it home in the car. And I just thought, I just crushed my heart. I remember, he didn't know how to use the words to be more compassionate and explain, to allow the forest maybe, and he would to heal it. And if not, it wouldn't make, this little creature wasn't going to make it back to our home on this holiday. So anyway, so I just kind of dismissed it. And again, I heard that, fix my hair and my makeup. And I said, ask somebody else, in my mind, I'm saying, ask somebody else. And that's when she said, no one else can hear me. And I thought, oh God, now what do I do? And I just thought, okay, give me a sign, God, make it easy for me. And so just then the mortician, who had been a family friend, came walking up, and I just, with my head down, said, can I fix her hair and makeup? And he said, absolutely, of course, bless his soul. It was just such ease. And he just put the lid down and rolled it back to the back and rolled a tray of makeup and brushes and different things right next to me. And as I was standing there and looking at this body, I heard a voice above me that said, Sissy, touch it. It's not me. It's just the vehicle I used. And so I'm like, touch it, and went, oh my God, that's definitely not my sister. There was no life source, and the energy, the life source was above me. It wasn't in that what she called vehicle. So anyway, at that point, she goes, get that blue stuff off my eyes. And so she was a real natural beauty, and wasn't into all that makeup and bouffant hairdo, which they had done this really weird thing with lots of hairspray, and that was so not my sister. And so we're talking as I'm wiping off the blue and, making everything more natural and kind of fixing the makeup and brushing her hair out. And in the meantime, she's telling me, she said, don't cry for me. She said, I only signed up for 24 years. And she said, I actually came for a particular member of the family, not my dad, but he was really close to her, but to help him with relationships, and mostly the relationship with himself. So, and a lot of his internal pain. And that's why she had agreed to come on his request. So she said, but now I'm meeting with this group of scientists and architects, and I can't remember what else at this point, but we're creating a substance that could build a building from the essence of love. And I went, what? And I'll share that on a Mount Shasta story later, when I just turned around a corner and knew what she was talking about. Don't go looking for a building in Mount Shasta, because you're not going to find it, but I'll tell that later. And I just went, oh my God, just chills went down me. And she said, and I thought, she goes, one day you'll know. And I said, okay. And she said it would come through a group of scientists. And I said, well, when will this happen? And she said, it'll come through a group of scientists when the planet's ready. And it will actually, and I thought, group of scientists, why isn't it coming through a group of architects? But I just, stopped the questions and listened. And she said, it'll come through a group of scientists, but if the planet's not ready, it'll never go forward. And I thought, all right, okay. So we talked for a while, and it was just a really amazing experience to know that she was with a group, and she called it something, her pod, and I still don't know, her pod group or something. But that's the first time I really had the understanding that I said, I will miss you, is what I told her. I said, I will really miss you. And she said, what if I came to you and said, Sissy, I get to go on this world tour, and I'm going to be gone for a lot of years, but I can't wait to go on this tour. And you would be really happy for me. And I said, yes, of course I would be happy for you. And she said, then be happy. And anyway, so being the traveler I am, and how much I love travel, I knew I could see it from a different perspective then, that of course I'd be happy for her. so that was the, the event that happened. And then I noticed when I realized I'm talking to this cadaver, not really the cadaver, but the being up above me out loud, and that I became really aware that there was another mortician with a body on another slab, a couple over. And I thought, oh my God, he must think I'm crazy. And I looked up and looked at him, and he wasn't fazed at all. Like this was a normal occurrence. So that was pretty neat. And then at that point, there was so much joy in my heart, knowing my sister only planned to be there 24 years. And she made it clear that don't blame the boy who was driving the motorcycle, because he was part of the plan. She called it the plan before time, or plan, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the actual term right now, but that there was a it's almost like you're sitting around a campfire, let's just use that analogy, in another dimension, and you say, hey, I need to learn this lesson and this lesson and this lesson. Will you play the part of this horrid person in my life? And the person's going, no, I'm like your best friend. Why would I want to do that? And she said, exactly, because only a best friend could show up that way and be willing to help me through a lesson of forgiveness or from acceptance or whatever it is, to learn to love in a different way, whatever it is. So that was really, a beautiful understanding for me that she came. It was a predestined or pre-designed, I should say, and every member of the party was a part of that. And then as a final close, I will share, perhaps, I know people don't listen to these very long, but I will bring this in, and how things happen and the events that happened where my brother Jay was in Florida for a Hewlett-Packard event at the time, and he and Lisa wanted to meet up, but he thought, nah, I got to get home. I can't make this detour to Southampton. At the last minute, something told him to go, and he went. And he had a beautiful evening. I think it was on a deck over the sunset, and I had a beautiful dinner with her. And so that's when we listen, and it's good that we do listen, because I don't think he would ever forgiven himself if she had passed on, and he didn't actually take that opportunity. So it was that night that after my brother left, this kid came, and he wanted to talk to Lisa. And I guess she was kind of a confidant to him, and he was going through a lot of life, difficult life challenges. And he wanted her to go with him on a ride to talk, and she agreed to. And then they said, her housemate said it was really interesting because, in those days you didn't have to wear a helmet. But she ran back in the house and was desperately looking for a helmet. And she found one, and they were just kind of surprised, like, she's never done that before. And she put it on, but apparently she never actually latched the clasp. And perhaps that's, there was a soul knowing that she would be leaving. So part of her being wanted to stay and wanted to resist that, and the other part didn't follow through with that. But the other thing was that my father went to get her things in Arizona. She had a little house on the college, and that she was going back to the university. And her professor told my dad, yeah, it was really odd. I told her to leave all her things because she was coming back, and she insisted in packing everything up. And so when he went to her apartment or her little house, that was the same way. Everything was packed and labeled. And so, on some level, the soul does know. And we may want to resist it. We may want to ignore it. But some part of her knew. She did come for 4 years. And the last part of that is many years ago, probably almost like 1920 so years ago, my mother had asked me, do you think Lisa will ever come back? Because I was doing automatic writing with Lisa, and I was doing lucid dreaming from the book Lucid Dreaming that was done in the 80s, one of the original ones that they tested the actual results in Stanford, and the being, when they found they were dreaming, actually could go to other parts of the hospital and come back and tell them exactly the time, person's name, what they were, died of or didn't die of, and the words that the nurses or the surgeons were saying in these rooms. So they were actually able to prove that transportation. So I would go forward in time, and I'll share those with you another time because I could prove those. And then in past lifetimes, I was only able to prove one event, but it was really neat. But I'll share that another time with you. Anyway, so when I was corresponding with Lisa, I kind of write things down, and some information would come through, or she'd come through me in these lucid dreams. One night I just wrote next to my bed, "Lisa, hey, are you coming back?" And she said, "If I come back, I'll come back as a girl." And she told me the person she wouldn't come back to. She wouldn't tell me who she would come back to, but she definitely, because somebody in the family was expecting, and they found out it was a girl, and she said, "I'll come back as a girl," but it's and she told me it wasn't a particular person. So at that point, I said, "Well, how will I know it's you?" And she said, "I will have," and she told me the marking that she had, and I'm not going to say it here. And so she said, "But what I'm going to ask you is you can share it with Mom, but neither one of you can say anything to anyone." And at this point, like, reveal her identity is what it was. And she said, the reason why, she said, is each life is an opportunity to learn something else and be a whole new being. Like, they're not attached to what they did in a past lifetime or how people look at them, because there's definitely specific lessons that they came to learn. So, but she told me she'd have this marking, and I just kind of let it go. And after that, someone else got pregnant in the family, and this they had a little girl, and I thought, oh, she doesn't have the marking, so it's not Lisa. But it was interesting because even as a tiny baby, I felt this being had that same life source and that same, there's an energetic beauty to this, real sweetness. Something I have always wanted in my life, don't seem to accomplish. But she had this just really amazing beauty, and she was sitting next to me on a beach. And she leaned over to reach for a little seashore. We were on the edge of the beach. And she reached over to pull it out of the water. And underneath her diaper line was this marking. And I just went, oh my God. I'd never seen it before because, she'd always had diapers on or clothes on. And chills went through me. And I said, Mom, if she's here, who do you think it is? And she immediately said, she reminds me of this person. And so, but I've watched this being lead this really amazing, sweet, kind life. And even as a small child, the words that would come out of her mouth were like, the little kid doesn't do this. And one of them was, I was with my mom when she had her place in Walnut Creek, and I stopped in to visit, and this little one, she was 4 or 5 at the time. She was really young. My mom was watching her and spending time, and my mother had made her lunch. And when my mother put it in front of her, it was just not like a small child would normally do. Either they go, ew, or they go, eat it down, and they really don't say anything. But she looked at it and she just said, oh, Grandma, she said, this is so beautiful. Thank you for making it for me. And I'm kind of like, seriously, none of my 3 kids ever said that to me on anything with food. But and then she ate it and she was like, oh, Grandma, that was so good. Thank you so much. And it was like, this is not normal, and it just the sweetness. And I watched when other people didn't treat her well in life, and she's never affected by it. She's just her own amazing person. And she just keeps showing up, not without I had a lot of I don't know if it's anger or hurt from my parents as a child, thinking they didn't love me because they didn't show up the way I thought love should look. And I had to do a lot of my own because I started taking a lot of coaching classes. I wanted to be a coach and a mentor. And I did Byron Katie's work. I did Paul Farini's work. I did all of these courses so I could help other people, but really it was about helping myself to get over that. And finally, I realized when I did this whole worksheet on my dad, and normally with a client, it's an hour and 10 minutes at the most doing this whole thing. I took all day to just answer these questions and go deep into the feelings of what it felt like back then, not right now as the adult, but go back to the earliest memory of that feeling. And then you come from that place of pain. And then it was really fascinating because every single event, it was like it got erased, like it never happened. And I was able to pick up a family album and look at it and go, where did these pictures come from of me and dad looking at me like really sweetly, or holding me, or holding someone else and looking over me with a smile? I said, these were never here. And it was like, what are you talking about? Those were always there. And it showed me that in life, what we don't believe isn't. It can't be, because we design our own life, right? So our own reality. So one person's reality is going to be different from you. So my story about my family and my childhood and my experience with my parents, or what I saw or heard, is totally different from my other siblings. As when I sat down with my sister Katie and Rebecca one time, we're like, that didn't happen. It happened like this. Or I'm like, I don't remember that. And they're going, are you kidding? Because everything shows up in life as you need it to. And so therefore, even now, I've been watching a lot of videos on people I really trust on some of the things that are going on that the media is stopping us from seeing. Some really dark things that happen in China and the United States and the deep state and all of these things. And what I realized is they have to be balanced with the light, because we're so powerful. Our minds are so powerful. Just thinking about pink ribbons, what does it do for you? Yeah, you think of cancer, right? So it's almost like a mind control as far as I'm concerned, because what it does is the more we think of something as as humanity, the more it becomes. Think of the war on drugs. It's gotten worse. There's no war on anything. We can't war cancer. We can't war divorce. Wars and or divorce. That was a slip. Yeah, right. Anyway, we can't war on things. We have to look at them for what they are and say, is there another way? Let's look into natural healing, which I'm a huge advocate of, and I have done some amazing work with people. So anyway, say, what is it trying to show me? What's going on in my body? Where did it start? The body is amazing, actually, what it tells you, like your fingernails. Like I have to look out now. I have a ridge in one of my fingernails. I need to look up that finger because on the right hand, because literally everything has a meaning that our body is communicating with us. So I kind of got off subject on that, but I think I just want to close with saying your life lesson is very different from the next person. Let's focus on light too. Know what's going on. Don't stick your head in the sand. I won't buy any products from China. It makes it very hard to shop, believe me, but I save a lot of money because will not keep supporting what has happened and what still is happening. So I don't like the fact that they own our Hollywood. They own so much here already because of, let's not go into that. Anyway, let's hold on to the light. Okay. Let's really make sure we're balancing our light and the goodness and focusing on, now watching, you can watch whatever you want on television or YouTube or whatever, but then go back and find something that's really uplifting, because it's really a power struggle right now. And it's not it's not trying to beat the darkness up. It's actually going into it and loving it so profoundly that everything starts shifting for the positive. So anyway, have a beautiful day. It's raining here, but I'll enjoy it anyway. All right, take care. Let's see, let's end this meeting for now. Much love.